Hi there. My name is Mitchell Sharp. I'm currently enrolled in the Faculty of Education program at the University of Windsor, and this is my video explaining how Monopoly can and should be used by both teachers and parents to teach kids about math. If you take a good look at the game, you can see Monopoly covers a wide range of mathematical concepts than just buying and selling properties. The first math concept we can see is in the design of the board itself. Players move around a board that is divided into 36 equal rectangles and 4 equal squares, creating a pattern of shapes. The squares are located in the four corners of the board, with 9 rectangles in between each square. Another relevant pattern of the board is the 10 equal spaces that separate each railroad. Teaching students about patterns is important as it aids in developing mental skills. In order to recognize patterns, a person needs to have an understanding of critical thinking and logic, both being important skills for students to develop. Also, patterns allow people to make educated guesses. Scientific inquiry is based on making hypotheses, and hypotheses are often based on understanding of patterns. Similarly, we make many day-to-day decisions based on recurring patterns. Another math concept, which is very apparent in the game of Monopoly, is number lines. With exceptions to the railroads and the utilities, the properties are laid out in order of ascending value, much like a number line. This goes for buying houses and hotels as well, starting at $50 on the first row of spaces and ending at $200 on the fourth row. The next concept related to Monopoly is the rolling of the dice. First of all, the two dice, adding the two dice helps with simple addition. But many educators like to use dice as a means of teaching statistics and probability. Teachers could create worksheets to be paired with the game, asking students what is the probability of rolling doubles once or twice or even 3 times, which we all know will send you straight to jail in the game. Some more advanced players may even consider using probability to determine where players are going to land on specific spaces, and this can determine on what properties they plan on buying or where they plan on building their houses or their hotels. The next concept that we can see is the money itself. Players are each allotted an equal amount of money at the beginning of the game, but how they spend that money is left to the individual players. By allowing students to play the game, they are essentially learning about expenses, how to make smart investments, and when to properly budget their money. By building houses and hotels on the properties that they own, players will collect extra rent from the opposing players, demonstrating a greater return on their investments. As well, if they find themselves in a pinch, players can mortgage their properties, but they must pay a price of 10% interest to get their property back. As well, if players land on the income tax space on the board, they must pay $200 or calculate 10% of their total assets and pay that 10%. And finally, when there's auctions or the houses are scarce in the game, students are forced to deal with the concept of supply and demand. All of these concepts are directly related to math, but also very practical and everyday choices and decisions. The game of Monopoly does an excellent job of preparing students for real-world situations. Now, I know what you're all thinking, it's all well and good, but Monopoly takes forever to finish. And I have had some pretty ridiculous Monopoly games where it's 2 o'clock in the morning and Grandma won't let me go to bed. But there are a few different ways to play Monopoly to come to the end of the game, just to sort of speed it up. And you don't necessarily have to use a Monopoly board, the actual game. You could just use it as a template and create your own classroom Monopoly game. I was reading one teacher's blog online where she turned her entire classroom into a Monopoly board. She broke her class up into 3 separate groups, so there was 3 separate games going on at the same time. Students brought in personal items as their game pieces that they would move around the classroom, and they still used money as a means to pay for tax and to pay rent when they landed on opposing players' properties. But instead of using the money to buy houses, the teacher made them complete educational challenges. So Monopoly is just a good way that you can base lessons or use parts of the game in your everyday lessons. So there you have it. Monopoly can be used to teach a variety of mathematical concepts. I hope you have enjoyed my thoughts on the game and have fun playing.